All right, I need to mention to you all that the final project has been posted. So ClubDB is the model for the final project, although there's some other things in the final project. We won't look at it this week, but I hope by next week we'll start. I will do a couple of little lectures on some aspects of the final project that are a little different than we've done before, but that'll be the bulk of your work for the remainder of the semester after we finish up ClubDB. So you can begin, and it would be a good idea to begin looking at it because it does follow the ClubDB pattern. A lot of what's there carries over to the Henry Books final project. Okay, and the extra credit and honors contract stuff is a part of the final project. So if we have time, we may even look at some of that JPA, the persistence technology, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how finishing up ClubDB works out. Okay, so we have a, whoops, if I can get myself, there we go. We have a working member update screen, I believe, which goes through the member update servlet. And we have that working with a prepared statement to do the update, and we send back the messages. Okay. So if we look at the member screen, the bottom part, in fact, I'll go ahead and run this once. Let's see. Oh, authentication failed. I must have changed the password. There we go. Okay, so here's our club member screen, and on the bottom we have a input that I did in 3 pieces to make it easy to make a string, although that's going to kind of thwart our prepared statement idea. So we're going to do a little connection pool in the final servlet to add to our toolkit. But if we view transactions, the idea is that we will get a screen. Did I give you a transaction screen? Did I not? Oh, there we go, purchases, yeah. So we're going to get a screen like this. A little table shows the member purchases and calculates up a total balance with a return to member screen. I don't think I gave you a purchases screen in the download the zip, so let's double check that. I think we might have to build this ourselves. So I've got a ClubDB starter code that has, no, it has the connection pool in it, but so we'll get to that. What I would recommend here is that we build a purchase object the way we did with annuity, where we built an annuity month so that we can use the JSTL to iterate over an array list or some kind of list structure to print out our, or to build our table. I think that'll be the easiest thing to do. So I'm going to go ahead and start that. Assuming yes, there we go. So I have a purchases object. I guess I should have called it singular. Anyway, in the business class, let's right-click and ask for a new Java class, which I will call purchase. So this will be a data storage object for a single purchase, and then we'll accumulate in some kind of list structure. So a purchase object will need, for our purposes in terms of the display, we'll need a private string, whoops, I can't spell private tonight, a private string for the purchase date, for the purchase type, that's the debit credit code, then the trans code will be stored, and the trans description are all a part of that. And of course we'll also have a private double for the amount, the purchase amount. And then I think we're going to need some currency formatting. We're going to want to return the amount, possibly. Anyway, I have it in my notes here. So private number format currency is a number format get currency instance. All right. So our constructor, and remember that we now know that we should build these data-backed objects as beans. So we are going to have public purchase, empty constructor, which just sets everything to the empty, purchase date, empty string, purchase type, empty string, trans code, trans description, and amount to 0. Okay, but we're also going to have an overloaded constructor. I think that'll be the most convenient. So we will have a public purchase constructor that takes a string for the purchase date, a string for the purchase type, the T code, transaction code, and a string for the T description, transaction description. Let's see, I'll bring that down so I can get it all on one page, and then a double for the amount. Okay, and so this constructor will set purchase date equal to PDT, purchase type equal to PType, trans code, trans description, and finally this amount equals amount. Okay, and then the simplest thing to do to get all of our get and set methods is to let it refactor and encapsulate the fields. So I will do that. Right click, refactor, encapsulate fields, and we will select all. We want setter and getter methods for all of those values. Oh, except, sorry, not the number format. I don't know why it's odd that it even lets that operate that way. I don't know why the number format currency is there. Okay, so setter and getter for all of the main values of the object: purchase date, type, transcode, description, and amount. And no Java docs, and refactor. Okay. Now the one thing I am going to do, I do have it in my notes. I couldn't find it at first, but it's down here. I did change the get for amount. So purchase object, the amount comes in as a double, but all the way down at the bottom, I think, where we do a get amount, I am going to change that to a string, and I'm going to return the currency format of this amount. Okay, so I think we've made quick work of that object. Does anybody need to see? Okay, back up at the constructors. All right. So if we take a look at that member screen again, we will note that at the bottom, it wanted to encapsulate the currency formatter for some reason, so I removed the encapsulation on that. Everything else did. Did you need to? So on the encapsulate refactor screen, it was below. It wasn't visible in the main box. You had to scroll down for it. Right. We don't want that. Right, so the get amount returns the currency format of amount. All right, so on the member screen, we have a second form at the bottom, which has an action of show purchases. So that will lead us to a show purchases servlet in order to process the month, day, and year values on our way to a purchase display. So in servlets, I will right-click and ask for a new servlet, which will be show purchases servlet. And we will add the deployment information and remove the word servlet from the URL pattern. And that should do it to build our next servlet. Show purchases servlet. All right. So remove some comments and this and that here. And we'll remove the hard-coded output HTML. And we're ready to start with our code. Now the return URL on this one will be assumed to be the member screen.jsp, because after they're done with the purchases, we go back to that. We'll also need SQL code, string, and a message string, as usual. And then we have these month, day, and year strings, which will be contain the values that come in from the form. And the process, first we need to recover all of the goodies. So, in a try-catch block, we'll first get the member. So member M, recast as a member, the request, get session, get attribute, and the attribute is just being called M, I believe, in our situation. Bring that down on a separate line. But we do need an import for member, so business.member import. Then we need the values for month, day, and year. These are strings, so month equal request, get parameter coming in off the form, and the name is month on the form. And then day is request, get parameter. What in the heck just happened here? Okay. My screen went away. That is called day on the form, I hope. Let me double check that. So that would be our member screen. Yeah, month, day, and then year are the IDs on those. So back to my servlet. And then year is request, get parameter for year. Well, we're going to take a little detour now and try to build this thing called a connection pool using our provided code. So this is discussed in our text, so you're welcome to peruse. It's a technique for making the database connections more efficient if the web server is capable of it. So let's bring in our connection pool object, and we'll see what it looks like. First of all, we are going to. No, we'll do the connection pool first. So back out to the starter code. There is a connection pool.java pool that was customized for this ClubDB. So I'm in the zip. I'm going to right-click, copy out of the zip into my ClubDB, and I want to put it in the business class or the business folder. So that'll be source Java business, and we'll right-click and paste the connection pool. Let's see if our author has anything good to say right or interesting to say right off the bat on connection pools. So on page 400 to 405, he's got how to implement, how to work with connection pooling. He's got a diagram, figure 1211. Connection pool object that contains multiple connections. Typically, you create a single connection pool for a web application. Then all the servlets in the application use the same connection pool to access the database. And when a user accesses a servlet, the servlet spawns a thread. This thread gets a connection object from the pool, uses that connection object to access the database. So considered an efficient approach to connections. Starts on page 400, goes for several pages discussing the pool, and we're just going to use his connection pool class that I modified for our ClubDB a little bit. Okay, so let's take a look. Once we've got the connection pool here, and let me show you the call. So the call inside the servlet to the connection pool is this: connection pool. So that's the call to the class, and we create a pool. Is a connection pool dot get instance. So this is it doesn't have a constructor in the usual way. It has a constructor like they do with the number formats. It's a hidden constructor. So, knowing that get instance is the way we start, let's take a look at the connection pool.java and see what it looks like. In fact, I think he probably, maybe I should refer to his discussion. Does he have a discussion of this? How to implement a connection pool. It's on page 402, and this is the class that we're using. Okay. So I'm near the bottom of the page. To start, the connection pool class imports the interfaces and classes that it needs to get a connection from the connection pool. This includes a data source interface and initial context. So after the class declaration, the class declares a private static instance variable that holds the connection pool. So this is what we're talking about here. So private static connection pool. It's kind of odd that the class has a private static instance of the class, but that holds the connection. So that's kind of hard to get my mind around, at least a little bit. And then we also have the data source. It includes the initial context class that's used to get a data source. Declares a private static variable that holds the data source object. So those are the two private statics. Now I modified his code just a tad bit in order to show a couple of additional, or just one additional feature. So when we call the get instance, you'll notice that this is public static synchronized so that the threads behave properly. We don't crash over each other trying to work with the connection pool, and so that synchronized goes with the threading issue. But so remember, we call get instance as the first situation, and what happens is that the class looks to see whether a pool has already been built. And so it's looking at its own static connection pool object. So the class has only one pool. It's in the static connection pool object. And it says if it's null, then we haven't instantiated. We haven't created the pool yet. So it calls a private constructor. So this is the weird, the weird sort of modern way of building classes with private constructors, and you have a get instance or some kind of get method that checks to see whether it needs to instantiate the class. Okay, so pool is instantiated by a new connection pool call to private constructor, and here's what happens. It needs to get the initial context, so there's a that's an import, sorry. There's a naming package that gives you initial context. So it creates an initial context object, and then it creates a specific context object using the initial context looking for the Java computer environment. So it's basically getting the detail, path, if you will, for the application. What's the real path of the application is the way you can think about that. So it gets a context, and then it creates a data source by doing a lookup in that context for a specific JDBC driver, JDBC/ClubDB resource. The JDBC indicates the driver, but this is the resource. So it's looking in its, in the context of this application, can we find the resource which will be the data source? And once it's done that, we have the pool, and then we have the data source by calling the constructor, and so you return the pool from the get instance. So the pool is it's an instance of this class. So it's really kind of abstract in a way that makes it, I think, a little hard to grasp. So it's returning in the private static instance of the class, which is also connected it to a specific data source. Okay. Then we also have a get connection method of the class, and we're going to call that next. So if you look at the show purchases servlet, after you get an instance of the pool, then the pool, which is an instance of that class, makes available the get connection. So we're going to then do a connection, C-O-N-N, as a pool, the instance object, get connection method call. And we need an import for the connection. Sorry, don't have that yet. So Java SQL connection will work for us. I think that's what I imported. Yeah, I used the Java SQL connection. Okay. So let's look at this. So once we've got the pool, the link to the pool, then we look at the connection pool get connection method, and it returns from the data source object a connection. So remember that as part of the private constructor, we linked the data source, or we connected the data source to the database, and then a data source data type has the ability to get a connection off of the data source, and that's the connection that we return. And then you have a free connection, which simply allows you to release it. Okay. Now, the other part of this is the resource setup so that the environment can actually find the database and use the correct drivers. So that aspect of the connection goes in the context XML file in the meta INF folder. So we go to context XML. We have the path as clubdb, but we're going to remove the end of the context. Remember that all about the connection pool is all about finding the application context and then finding the resource within the context. So here's our context. So we need to remove the end tag because we're going to make a context end tag later on after we build the resource. Now the other thing that I have is I have anti-jar locking set to true as part of my context. I don't know if we need that or not, but I'll leave it out for now and we'll see. Okay, so we're going to, this is an XML file, so we do everything in tags. So as a resource, we are going to set the name of this resource to jdbc/clubdb. And I think that's case sensitive, but that goes back to the connection pool and the context lookup in order to build a data source. Okay, so back to our context XML. So that's the name. Auth is container. Authorization. Contain, can I spell that correctly? Okay. And then the resource has a driver class name. Now I have in my notes that I went with our authors rather than the Java JDBC. I went with com mysql jdbc.driver. So that is the class name for the driver. The URL, again, thinking context, is jdbc:/mysql /localhost:3306/club. Look familiar? We've previously been using that as our connection string. It's now the URL for the resource. Username, as you would guess. Credentials for logging in to the database, to that database. Password, whatever yours is. Mine is Sesame on this machine. So we're logging in as root under Sesame. And then there's some items that our author discusses that are good ideas. Max, whoops, that's lowercase. Max active connections 100. Max idle 30. Max wait, I guess that's milliseconds, 10,000. Then log abandoned connections, that would be false. That would just give us a huge log. I've got 10,000, yep, max wait. So log abandoned, false, but remove abandoned is true. So that's important for efficiency purposes. If the connection has been abandoned based on the idle time and timeout, we will remove it. Remove, oh, here's the actual abandoned timeout is 60. And then the type of this resource is JavaX SQL.DataSource. So that will allow us to put this resource, I mean, those are the items that we would need in order to build a data source, the information we'd need. Okay, so the connection pool we'll use this resource to build a specific data source, and then the web server will manage the connections. Okay. Just trying to go back over it, make sure I haven't forgotten anything or mistyped anything. All right, I think this is okay. I hope it is. And we'll proceed. We'll proceed with our pool until we discover that it doesn't work. Then we'll try and figure out what's wrong. But anyway, back to our purchases. So the connection pool is kind of a standard. We're done with it as long as it knows where to look in terms of the resource name and building the data source. That's all that really has to change. The class itself doesn't change very much. Okay, so back in our servlet for show purchases, we now have a connection object from which we can create a statement. Now this is because of the way I built the month, day, and year business. I'm going to do this as a regular statement, not a prepared statement. So statement S equals connection dot create statement. So this type of connection that comes from the pool has the same capabilities. Build a statement. We need the import for Java SQL statement. Yeah. Okay. Why is it giving me red over here? Oh, now we have an unreported exception. All right. Well, we'll deal with that in due time. Okay, so the SQL command that we need to get the purchases will involve the specific member and the date in its various pieces. In fact, let's put together let's do it this way. If month is empty, or day is empty, or year is empty, if any of those are empty, then I'm going to create, oh, I need another string. I'm going to add it up here. Sorry about that. String SQL where equals, okay. So my SQL where will be empty if any of those are empty. Otherwise, I'm going to create a SQL where clause that includes and p.purchase date greater than, so this is going to be a where clause that I either add in or don't add in. I'm kind of doing this in an awkward way, aren't I? Well, okay. I'll continue it. I'll continue it this way. So, all right. Apostrophe, and then you add in year, and a hyphen, and you add in, I'm going to need to bring this down, month and a hyphen and day, dy, sorry, and closing apostrophe. Okay. All right. So there's my where clause. If none of the, it's an addition actually to my where clause, if none of the date components were empty. All right, so my SQL command then looks like this. Select p memID, p purchase date, p trans type, p trans code, and then we're going to have a codes file. So C after the transcode will be a C file trans description, and then p dot amount from TBL purchases, which is the P file, whoops, typo, and TBL codes, which is the C file, where the P purchases trans code equals the C trans code, and the p.memID equals, now here comes our other bit of data, so that'll be equal sign apostrophe plus the m dot get member ID, so we drop that in, plus apostrophe, plus the SQL where clause, either the empty string or the final and part of the purchase date, plus, and then the closing bit of it, order by p dot, whoops, lost my, there we go, p dot purchase date. Okay, so that's kind of awkward, but gives us a SQL command that matches the two tables, pulls out the transaction information for a specific member ID and possibly a specific purchase date that is a starting date if it is indicated, and then orders it. So what we will try next is a result set R equals the statement S execute query against that SQL string, and that will require an import for Java SQL result set. And our goal after the result set is to build an array list of purchase objects. Okay, so I'm going to declare an array list of purchase objects as per a new array list. Use the diamond operators, but we will, oh, forgot my parentheses after my diamond operators, so we'll do that. Now it wants a couple of imports. It wants an import for business.purchase and an import for util.arraylist. I wish my screen wouldn't keep doing that, just because I'm moving my cursor around. Okay, so we will do a while loop, while r.next, as long as you can keep seeing records in the result set. We will create a purchase object P as a new purchase, and we will send it data out of the record. So r.getString for purchase date, and r.getString for trans type. Why is it? Oh, unreported SQL exceptions. I wish it would stop it. Okay, I'm sick of that. We're going to go down here to the try, and we will catch SQL exception E. All right, and we'll import SQL exception, and then it should be happy. Oop. Okay, it's more happy. It's not completely happy. Oh, now there's something wrong on my... Who's doing ands up here? Nobody stop me. What do you mean by and? Well, that would be Visual Basic. I've been coding in Visual Basic lately. Plus, sorry, all of the SQL where I was concatenating with and doesn't make any sense to Java. And I can certainly understand that. Okay, pluses everywhere. Oh. Okay. Well, let's see. We did trans type. Now we're going to do a get string for trans code. And a get string for trans description. And lastly, a get double for amount. Okay. So we've created an individual purchase object by reading a row of the result set, building P, and then we will do a purchases array list add P. So we'll add that into our array list of purchase objects. And I am leaving one little item for you, so I need to skip over this. Okay, that'll be the end of the while loop. We'll go through that as many times as we need to. And when we're done, let's try setting message equal to total records equal r.getRow. Okay, and if we need a moment. Oh, and if we get all the way through that while loop and yeah, even if we end up with an empty purchases array list, I still think we want to set the URL to move ahead to purchases.jsp. And we will set the purchase array list as an attribute of the request. We only need it for one cycle through the purchases screen, JSP screen that we haven't built yet, but will. So request, set attribute, PUR, and we will put PUR as the data object. If we catch a SQL exception, we'll indicate what it is, e.getMessage. Otherwise, we are ready to move on. So one way or the other, we'll set the attribute for message and forward. So I'm going to grab my member update servlet, final 2 lines of code for the request dispatcher and the dispatching. We'll add that in with the import, and that should member update servlet. Yeah. Okay, so the result of running through the show purchases servlet is to build this PUR object, which is an array list of purchase objects, just the way we built in the annuity. We built the annuity month array list of annuity month objects, and now we're going to move on to the purchases JSP, which will display all this lovely stuff. But I can wait a moment if that's necessary, and we do need to test whether our connection pool is going to do anything for us or not. Next step is to build our final JSP. So let's go up to Web Pages and right-click, ask for a new JSP, which we will call Purchases Plural. Purchases JSP, standard syntax. And we will need the JSTL. Oops, I guess we haven't. Have we used that yet? Is that in our libraries? Yes, it's already in our libraries. Oh, because we use the if on it. Okay, so actually we can go over to the member screen and grab the taglib line that we had there, Control-C, and down to Purchases, and Control-V. So we'll add that in. My title just doesn't matter. I don't think it matters. Oh, okay. And so this is the purchases screen. Member purchases is shown, and that'll be my big title. I will go ahead as an H2 and put $ expression language, in other words, m.memID. So we're going to get the memID. And then H2 again, I will put expression call, whoops, if I could hit the curly braces, m dot first name space expression call m dot last name. Then we need to build our little table. So we will start with table border equal 1, and we will have a row, a TR, of headings. So the first heading is purchase date. Next heading, sorry this is tedious typing, purchase type. Purchase type. Next is transcode. Trans description. And finally, amount. All right. So there's the start of my table. And this time, we will have a for each employing the JSTL that runs through the purchase object. So C for each. The variable I'm just going to call P, but the collection, items collection, is expression language call to purchase. And I got an extra curly brace in there somehow. Oh, I was missing my leading double quote. There we go. Okay. So there's my for each loop, and every time through the loop I will build a table row that has left aligned fields, the first one of which is P dot purch date. So I need to go back to my purchases, my purchase.java. Make sure what I called all these. Purch DT, yeah. Okay, so purch DT, purch type, transcode. Okay, doesn't look like anything will be uppercase. So purch DT is the first entry. Then TD align left for expression language P purch type. Align left expression language P dot transcode. We're going to get the transcode. TD align left for the trans description, trans DESC, and finally a TD align right for expression language call P dot amount. Was that just AMT? Hold on. Yeah, AMT. Okay. That builds our table using the JSTL. Have a little break. Put the message on the page. And another break, and then finally a call back. So we'll do an href equal / member update. Don't need the .jsp on that one. back to member screen. Whew. That was a lot of typing in a short amount of time. And we're actually out of class time just about. And we haven't tested the silly thing. But we will in just a moment. I'm mainly interested in whether that connection pool works. I'm going to do a quick test here. So, I will log in as A043 with my new password, and I'm going to view transactions without giving a starting date. And SQL exception, unknown column C.transdec. Yep, typo. Okay, so back in my servlet, C.transdesc. Okay, that wasn't too good. Let's try again. Crash. Let's see. Purchases JSP. Oh, property first name not found on member. I must not have given it the right call. Let's see. Member has gets for, oh, NM. I didn't spell it out. My notes are wrong. Okay, so back to the purchase JSP, or yes, purchases JSP. So that member, no, that's okay. Show purchases, servlet, where was that happening? Oh no, it was. I'm sorry. It was at the top of the purchases JSP. Sorry. Okay. First NM, last NM. So that should be better. Let me try again. Debugging is such fun. Oh, wow. AO43, Joseph Abraham. We have purchases. Total records equals 0. Well, that's not too good. So the get row isn't working. Unless nope. Yeah, I don't know why it's not working. But anyway, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Does he really have 19? Let's go to our command line client. Show databases. Use club. Show tables. Select star from TBL purchases where mem ID is equal to A043. TBL purchases. Can't type at all tonight. 19 rows. Okay, that looks promising. Let's see, what did I do about my total line there? Show purchases servlet. Oh. No. So r.next, when it ran out of records, didn't give me the proper row. So I guess I'm going to have to do, after the while loop, I'll have to do r last and then r.getRow. Let's see if that gives me proper number. There we go. Total records 19. Okay, so what if we start with 2012 7-1, we should only get 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So let's go back to the member screen. Uh-oh. That didn't, I got the wrong. What did I put on my member screen? Okay, so purchases. Oh, I put member update and it was member screen. Ugh. Okay. Well, we'll try that again. So we'll do 180. I'll try 7/1/2012, and there we go, just 7 records. And it's easy to blow this up because of I put no controls in on the how they entered the numbers for the date. Let's just see what member screen. Why didn't it find it? I'm totally confused now. Member screen. Okay, there's something I'm doing wrong about the link. I'll have to look that up. I'll leave that for you to fix. That's odd. I didn't think it took the JSP on it. I'm pretty sure it doesn't. I'll figure it out. So we're over on our time. Here's the other than fixing the anchor, the reference here, the link reference. The only other thing that I think you have to do is develop the total. So if you look at the spec, it wants the total balance due, which is a little tricky because you can have D or C type purchases. They're all positive amounts, so that controls how you want to handle those amounts. So you need the total records we've done, but the total balance due needs to be based on the display. And I will just leave it at that. So it's a sum of all the D transactions less the payments. Is how you calculate it. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you need to make it show that line. It doesn't show that line now. It just says total records. It doesn't show the actual total due. But other than that, I think we're in business, and obviously the connection pool is working. We're getting our data values with and without starting string values. Let's see, did we have, where can I look for that link? Darn, I do not. Is it no slash? No, surely it takes a slash. Why is the back not working? Let me pause for a minute. I want to put that on the record. Well, after much trial and error, it appears that the proper form here is memberscreen.jsp without the slash. And that seems to be getting me back and forth between the purchases screen and the member screen. We'll try it once more. Let's do a different 005, different set of different person, different transactions, 11 records. Zimmerman, that looks about right. Back to the screen, and there you go. Oops, let's see, if we start at 7 or 6, we'll get 5, so let's do month 6. Let's just try 6/1/2012. Let's see what happens. Oh, that did work. Okay. Total records 5. All right, so I think we're in good shape. I appreciate you hanging around, and I guess maybe some of you might need my help. But anyway, that was a wild goose or a rabbit trail, but we got it sorted out. And so the only thing left on this for turn-in is the totaling line that shows the transaction total. We've got the connection pool, got the prepared statement, and all the pieces. So we're ready to look next week at the beginning, a couple of issues in the final project, but we are well on our way to wrapping up the course. So thanks very much.